Welcome to Revenge by Eve. Find a cozy spot and enjoy the journey of today's narrative.
I was sitting in the emergency room with a broken wrist when my business partner walked in with his lawyer and told me I was being removed from the company I'd built from nothing. The company that existed only because I'd invested my entire inheritance. Before this story goes any further, tell me, would you have accepted defeat or done what I did? And as you listen, comment where you're listening from. I read everyone. My name is Eve Castellano, and 5 years ago I had everything figured out. I was 31 years old, working as a senior marketing manager for a tech startup in Austin. The pay was good, the work was challenging, and I was climbing the ladder exactly the way I'd always planned. I had a comfortable apartment, a reliable car, a close circle of friends, and enough savings that I felt secure. But I also had a dream. Since college, I'd wanted to start my own business, not just any business, a boutique marketing agency that specialized in helping small businesses and nonprofits tell their stories. I'd seen too many worthy organizations struggle because they couldn't afford the big agencies, couldn't compete for attention in a saturated market. I wanted to level that playing field. The problem was capital. Starting an agency required office space, equipment, software licenses, enough runway to survive those first lean months. I'd been saving aggressively, but I was still 2 years away from having enough. Then my grandmother passed away. Nonna Maria had been my anchor growing up. When my parents divorced and my mother spiraled into addiction, Nonna took me in. She raised me from age 13 through high school, taught me Italian, and showed me what unconditional love looked like. She'd been a seamstress, working into her 80s at the small alterations shop she ran from her garage. When she died at 89, she left me everything. The house, a small bungalow in East Austin that was now worth a surprising amount due to the neighborhood's gentrification. Her savings, her life insurance. All told, just over $400,000. I cried for a week. Not because of the money, but because I'd lost the person who believed in me most. But I also knew exactly what she'd want me to do with that inheritance. Use it to build something beautiful, she'd always told me. Don't just survive, cara mia. Create. I sold the house, put the money in a business account. And I started looking for a business partner, someone with complementary skills who could help me build this dream. That's when I met James Riley. James was 35, a talented graphic designer with a decade of experience at various agencies. He had a portfolio that made my jaw drop. Clean, sophisticated work that told stories without words. He was charismatic, funny, full of ideas and energy. We met at a networking event, got coffee the next week, and within a month we were planning the agency together. I've been wanting to do something like this for years, he told me over beer and tacos. I'm tired of working for other people's visions. I want to build something that matters. Me too. Let's do it. Partners. 50-50. We shook on it right there in that taco joint, and I felt like my life was finally beginning. We formed the LLC together, Castellano and Riley Creative. The name was James's idea, alphabetical and democratic. We signed partnership agreements drafted by a lawyer James knew. I put in $300,000 as initial capital. James contributed his equipment, his client network, his expertise. We found office space in a converted warehouse in South Austin. 2 rooms, exposed brick, natural light pouring through industrial windows. We bought furniture from IKEA, hung plants, created a space that felt creative and welcoming. Those first months were magical. We worked 16-hour days and loved every minute. We landed our first client, a non-profit supporting foster youth, and created a campaign that tripled their donations. Word spread. More clients came, small businesses, local non-profits, to entrepreneurs who needed help telling their stories. James and I worked seamlessly together. I handled strategy, client relationships, copywriting. He handled all visual elements, branding, web design. We'd brainstorm for hours, pushing each other to be better, celebrating every win. We hired our first employee after 6 months, a junior designer named Maya who was talented and eager, then a social media manager, then an account coordinator. By the end of year 1, we were profitable. By year 2, we had 12 employees and a waiting list of potential clients. I was living my dream, building something that mattered, honoring Nonna's memory by creating something beautiful. I trusted James completely. We were partners in every sense, splitting decisions, splitting profits, splitting the weight of keeping this thing alive. I should have been more careful about where I placed that trust. The first warning sign came during year 3, though I didn't recognize it as such. James started taking more personal time. Long lunches, leaving early for appointments, working from home several days a week. "Everything okay?" I asked after the 3rd week of this pattern. "Yeah, just some family stuff. My dad's health isn't great. I've been helping my mom navigate medical appointments." That made sense. James had always been close with his parents. But then I noticed discrepancies in our financial records. We used a shared accounting system. I reviewed it monthly to track expenses, revenue, cash flow. In July, I saw a charge for $15,000 labelled Consulting Services, J. Riley. I pulled James aside. "What's this consulting charge?" "Oh, and I brought in a freelance consultant to help with some technical back-end stuff on the Martinez website. Figured it was faster than trying to learn it myself. $15,000 seems steep for website back-end work. He's a specialist, but it saved us time, and the client was happy." Reasonable explanation. I let it go. But over the next few months, more charges appeared. Consulting services. Professional development, J. Riley. Research and development. All tied to James's name, all vague, all expensive. When I asked about them, James always had explanations. Training courses, industry research, networking expenses that would pay off long term. "You should be doing this stuff too," he'd say. "Investing in ourselves is how we stay competitive." But I was busy actually running the business, managing clients, overseeing employees, handling the day-to-day operations that kept us functioning. I also noticed that James was making decisions without consulting me. He hired a new senior designer, his friend from a previous agency, without interviewing anyone else or discussing the hire with me. "I thought we agreed to discuss hiring decisions," I said. "It was time sensitive. Marcus was about to take another offer. I had to move fast. We're partners. You should have called me." "You were in client meetings all day. I made a judgment call." He was right that I'd been busy, but it still felt wrong. Around this time, James started talking about expanding. We should open a second location, maybe in Dallas or Houston. "That's a huge financial commitment. We're doing well, we can afford it." "Can we? Have you run the numbers?" "Generally. And I think we should bring in a consultant to do a formal analysis." Another consultant. More money flowing out. "James, we need to be careful. We're profitable, but we're not swimming in cash. You're being too conservative, Eve. This is how businesses grow." Too conservative. Like my caution was a character flaw rather than fiscal responsibility. I started feeling undermined. Like James was making decisions, spending money, shaping the company's direction without real partnership. When I brought this up, he'd get defensive. "I'm trying to grow us. You seem content to stay small." "I'm trying to be sustainable, there's a difference." "Is there? Because from where I'm sitting, you're holding us back." Holding us back. Using my grandmother's money that had launched this entire venture. Things escalated dramatically in year 4. When James announced he wanted to bring in an investor. "Wait, what? We don't need investors." "We do if we want to scale. I've been talking to someone who's very interested in what we've built." "You've been talking to investors without telling me?" "I've been exploring options. That's what entrepreneurs do." "We're partners. You can't make these kinds of moves without discussing them with me first." "I'm discussing it now." The investor was a venture capitalist named Derek Hammond. James arranged a meeting without asking me when I was available. I showed up to our own office to find James and Derek already deep in conversation, paperwork spread across the conference table. "Eve, great, you're here," James said, as if I was late to a meeting I'd known about. Derek was exactly what I expected. Mid-40s, expensive suit, the kind of handshake that was slightly too firm. "James has been telling me about your impressive growth," Derek said. "We've worked hard to build something sustainable. Sustainable is good, but James and I have been discussing how to take this to the next level. Next level, like what we'd built wasn't already significant." They presented a proposal. Derek would invest $2 million for a 40% stake in the company. "That would dilute us each to 30%, I said. "But it would give us capital to really expand," James countered. "And give Derek control since he'd be the largest single shareholder. He'd be a silent partner, just providing capital and advice." I looked at the paperwork. The valuation seemed low for what we'd built. The terms gave Derek significant decision-making power. "I need time to review this with a lawyer," Derek smiled. "Of course, though the offer is time-sensitive. I have other opportunities I'm considering." Classic pressure tactic. "I still need time." After Derek left, James turned on me. "You embarrassed me. Derek's doing us a favor even considering us. He's not doing us a favor. He's buying into a profitable company at what looks like a discounted valuation. You don't understand how these things work? I understand that you're making major decisions without me. Again. Because you're too scared to take risks. I risked everything to start this company, my entire inheritance. And I've been working to grow it while you've been playing it safe." We didn't speak for 3 days after that fight. I consulted with a lawyer, not the one who'd drafted our original partnership agreements, but someone who specialized in business disputes. "This investment would fundamentally change your company's structure," she told me. "And based on your partnership agreement, James can't unilaterally accept it. You both have to agree to any change in ownership structure. So I can block it. Yes, but that might create other problems in your partnership." Those problems arrived faster than I expected. The core betrayal happened on a Wednesday morning in October, exactly 4 years after we'd opened the agency. I'd been working from home due to a bad cold. Around 11, I got a call from Maya, our first employee. "Eve, are you okay?" She sounded worried. "Just a cold. I'll be back tomorrow. What's up?" "James is here with Derek Hammond and some lawyers. They're asking us all to sign new employment contracts. And no one knows what's going on." My stomach dropped. "I'm coming in." "James said you were taking the week off." "I'm coming in now." I threw on clothes, grabbed my laptop, and drove to the office with my head pounding and my hands shaking. When I walked in, our entire staff was gathered in the main workspace looking confused and anxious. James stood with Derek and 2 people in suits I didn't recognize. "Eve," James looked surprised. "I thought you were sick. What's happening?" "We're just handling some administrative updates." "What kind of updates?" Derek stepped forward. "Eve, why don't we talk privately?" "No. Whatever this is, it involves my company and my employees. We talk here." James's jaw tightened. "Fine. Derek's investment is being finalized. And we're restructuring the company and updating employment contracts accordingly. I didn't approve any investment. The partnership agreement gives me the authority to make strategic business decisions, not decisions that change ownership structure. Our lawyer confirmed that." One of the suited people spoke up. "Ms. Castellano, I'm Rebecca Chen, Mr. Hammond's attorney. We've reviewed your partnership agreement carefully. Mr. Riley does have the authority to accept investment on behalf of the company." "That's not what my lawyer said." "Then your lawyer may have missed the clause regarding strategic financial decisions." She handed me a document. Our original partnership agreement, with one section highlighted. "Either partner may execute agreements for strategic financial transactions necessary for company growth, provided such transactions are in good faith and in the company's best interest." My vision blurred. I'd signed this 4 years ago, trusting James, trusting the lawyer he'd recommended. "This gives you the right to sell the company out from under me?" "It gives me the right to make decisions that grow the company," James said, "which is what I'm doing. Without consulting me, your partner, the person who funded this entire operation." Your initial capital contribution was years ago. $300,000. My inheritance. The only reason this company exists. And I've contributed 4 years of work, client relationships, creative vision. So have I, Derek interrupted. Perhaps we should discuss the new structure. Eve, you'll remain as a managing partner with a 30% stake. James will have 30%. I'll have 40%. We'll hire a CEO to handle operations, freeing you both up for higher-level work. You're pushing me out. We're professionalizing the operation? One of the employees spoke up. What happens to us? New ownership, new contracts, Derek said. Better benefits, actually. More stability. I looked at my team, people I'd hired, mentored, built relationships with. They looked scared and confused. I turned to James. How long have you been planning this? Eve, how long have you been working with Derek behind my back to take over my company? It's not your company. It's our company. And I'm trying to save it from your risk-averse leadership. The words hit like a physical blow. I'm going to fight this, I said quietly. You'll lose, Rebecca said. The partnership agreement is clear. Mr. Riley acted within his rights. Then the agreement was fraudulent from the start. That's a serious accusation. One I'm prepared to make in court. I walked out before anyone could see me cry. I sat in my car in the parking lot, shaking so hard I couldn't turn the key. 4 years. 4 years of my life. My grandmother's entire legacy. My dream. Being taken from me by someone I'd trusted completely. I drove to a coffee shop, ordered tea I couldn't drink, and called my lawyer. They're claiming James has the right to accept investment without my consent. Based on what clause? I read her the highlighted section. She was quiet for a long moment. That's vague enough that they might have an argument. But it's not absolute. We can fight it. What are my odds? Honestly? 50-50? Maybe worse. Litigation is expensive and uncertain. You might spend $100,000 and still lose. I hung up and sat there, staring at nothing. Everything I'd built. Everything Nonna had left me. Everything I'd poured into this dream. Being stolen by someone who'd smiled and called me partner while planning to push me out. That was the moment I stopped waiting for them to change. I didn't go back to the office. I went home, climbed into bed, and spent 3 days barely moving. I wasn't just heartbroken. I was broken. Everything I'd believed about myself, about my judgment, about my ability to build something meaningful, all of it shattered. I'd trusted the wrong person, signed the wrong documents, been naive and stupid and careless. On the 4th day, I got up and started planning. I couldn't afford a long legal battle, even if I won. I'd be financially devastated and stuck in a company where my partner had tried to eliminate me. But I wasn't going to just walk away either. I started by reading every document related to the company. The partnership agreement, the LLC formation papers, every contract, every financial record. I found things James had hidden. The consulting fees had all gone to shell companies that traced back to James's personal accounts. He'd been embezzling for over a year. The new senior designer he'd hired, Marcus, was being paid $20,000 more than our other senior staff, and Marcus was also listed as a partner in one of James's shell companies. James had been building his own parallel business using company resources. I documented everything: screenshots, transaction records, incorporation papers for his shell companies. And I also reached out to every client we'd ever worked with and quietly asked about their experience with the company. Several mentioned that James had approached them about moving their business to his new venture once it launched. He'd been planning to take our clients. Then I did something James didn't expect. I contacted Derek Hammond directly. Mr. Hammond, I'm Eve Castellano. I think we should talk about your investment in Castellano and Riley. We met at a coffee shop. He came prepared to be charmed or intimidated. I brought documents. What's this? Evidence that James Riley has been embezzling from the company you're investing in. evidence that he's established competing businesses using company resources, our evidence that he's been soliciting our clients to move to his new venture. Derek's expression changed as he reviewed the documents. Why are you showing me this? Because you're about to invest $2 million in a company with a fraudulent partner. I thought you should know what you're buying into. You could be making this up to block the deal. I have bank records, incorporation papers, and signed statements from clients. You can verify all of it. Derek was quiet for a long time. What do you want? I want you to pull your investment. I want James to face consequences, and I want my company back. The payoff came 2 weeks later. Derek had his lawyers investigate everything I'd provided. They found even more evidence of James's fraud. He'd been setting up to steal not just clients, but employees. Unproprietary processes we'd developed. Derek pulled his investment offer. Then he did something I hadn't expected. He offered to invest directly with me, cutting James out entirely. Your company has value. Your partner is the liability. Let's fix that. But first, we had to deal with James legally. Derek's lawyers filed a lawsuit against James for fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, and embezzlement. They included detailed evidence of every shell company, every fraudulent charge, every stolen resource. I filed a parallel suit to dissolve the partnership and reclaim my capital contribution. James's lawyer sent threatening letters about our harassment and defamation. Then we called a meeting. Me, Derek, our lawyers, James, and his lawyer. I'd been dreading seeing James again, wondering if I'd fall apart or scream or cry. Instead, I felt nothing but cold resolve. Let's get this over with, James's lawyer said. My client is prepared to offer a settlement. We're not interested in settlement, Derek's lawyer replied. We're prepared to pursue criminal charges for embezzlement and fraud. James's face went pale. Criminal charges? You stole from your own company. You created fraudulent consulting charges. You plan to steal clients and employees. All of this is documented. I built this company. With my client's money, Derek's lawyer said. Money you've been systematically stealing and diverting to personal ventures. I spoke for the first time. You told me I was holding the company back, that I was too conservative. But really, you were just setting up to push me out and take everything I built. Eve, don't. I trusted you. I gave you half of my company, and you treated it like something to exploit. James's lawyer interrupted. What do you want? James signs over his entire stake in the company to Eve, Derek's lawyer said. He repays the embezzled funds with interest. He signs a non-compete preventing him from working in this industry, in this state for 5 years. And he publicly admits what he did. That's absurd. Or we file criminal charges and sue for triple damages. Your choice. James looked at his lawyer, who looked at the evidence, and the room went quiet. I need to consult with my client privately, his lawyer finally said. They left the room. Derek turned to me. You okay? I will be. They came back 20 minutes later. My client will accept the terms. The settlement was finalized within a month. James signed over his entire ownership stake. I now owned 70% of the company. Derek owned 30% as a true silent partner who provided capital and advice, but no operational control. James repaid $127,000, every fraudulent charge we could document. The money went back into company accounts. He signed a non-compete that effectively ended his career in marketing and design in Texas for 5 years. And he issued a public statement to clients and industry contacts admitting to financial improprieties and apologizing for any disruption. His reputation was destroyed. The network he'd been so proud of turned their backs on him. Marcus, the senior designer James had hired, was fired immediately. Several other employees left, unable to accept what James had done, but most stayed. Because they believed in what we'd built together. I promoted Maya to creative director. We hired new designers, rebuilt trust with clients, and kept growing. Derek's investment allowed us to expand properly, with planning, with strategy, with care. Within a year, we doubled our revenue. Within 2, we'd opened that second location I'd been cautious about, but this time with proper financial planning. The company thrived, not despite James's absence, but because of it. 5 years after the betrayal, I'm 39 and running a company with 40 employees across 3 locations. We're still doing the work I dreamed of, helping small businesses and non-profits tell their stories, creating change through creative communication. I've paid Derek back his initial investment and bought out his stake. The company is entirely mine now. Nor James tried to restart his career in Colorado. Last I heard, he was working as a junior designer at a small firm, making a fraction of what he'd been making with me. People occasionally ask if I regret fighting back, if I wish I'd just walked away and started over. Never. Not for a second. Because James thought I'd stay silent, thought I'd accept being pushed out of my own company, thought I was too nice, too trusting, too weak to fight back. He was wrong. I didn't stay silent. I gathered evidence. I found allies. I used the system he'd tried to manipulate against me to hold him accountable. And I won. Not through violence or cruelty, just through persistence, documentation, and refusing to accept injustice. My grandmother used to tell me, "Cara mia, being kind doesn't mean being weak. Sometimes love means fighting for what's right." I fought, and I built something beautiful from the ashes of betrayal. If you were in my place, what would you have done differently? And don't forget to tell me, where are you listening from right now? This is Revenge by Eve, and your voice matters here.
Thanks for watching Revenge by Eve. We hoped you enjoyed the story. See you soon.